Welcome to Game Storm, a podcast where I sit down with a new game designer, artist, or creative every episode as we design a new game from scratch. My goal is to bring the creative process of design to the forefront. Come join us if you're into wacky, small indie games, hearing designers talk about their process, or if you want to follow along with the episode and design your own game to one of our prompts. This week I have Adelheid with us.
Hello, my name is Addie. I go professionally by Adelheid Sigfridsdottir or Clockquark. I like to make story games primarily. I'm a writer by trade, game designer by education, and I fell in love with story games and primarily through Wanderhome originally. And when I found out, it doesn't have to all be crunchy simulations. If I just want to make some guys do some situations, I can do that. And I'm good at making that. I can do that I do that all the time.
Yeah. Right now I'm spinning our prompt and let's see what we get. Okay, I'm actually really excited about this because I really like this idea. This prompt is a game about repurposing physical media.
Oh my goodness.
There are a couple of games that do stuff kind of like this or kind of build elements like this into them, but I don't actually have that many good examples because this prompt is kind of weird.
Is it repurposing physical media as in the actual tangible, like, all my VHSs are over there?
It's pretty broad, but when I was talking about this prompt with some friends initially, the initial thought that led to this was like sort of act of collaging physical media was kind of one of the core ideas. So that was kind of where my brain was, but I liked making it broader. So like, I think it could be kind of anything, but I think collaging physical media like magazines, books, whatever, is probably the most accessible version of it, where you're not like, I'm clipping up VHSs or whatever. There's probably some really cool stuff you could do with this with like film, though, like film photography or something like that.
For sure, but that is not everyone has a dark room. So that's probably the direction I would go with it as well, is kind of going back to what I used to do in high school, which was I would take primarily National Geographic magazines because they would have really cool historic like photos in there, and then I would cut them up. I made this really cool one where I took a mountain range and some like factories and nuclear power plants and made this like this floating island with like a crowd of people underneath it. It looks rad. It's in my closet still.
That does sound really cool. Ryan's going to be very mad at me because I don't remember the specific name of this, and we were just talking about it the other day, but the style of poetry where you make poems by blacking out parts of existing media.
Blackout poetry, yeah.
Is it just that? Okay. My brain is non-functional.
Sometimes poets are very creative in their names. Sometimes they're very not.
So I think this is something we were talking about when I was talking about this prompt, and that is a fascinating thing to me, the idea of like having people build, and it doesn't even have to be poetry specifically, but the idea of like destroying some piece of media in order to create a new meaning, a la the collaging or the blacking out of whatever is going on a page. Yeah.
Blackout poetry, and this could... I have an idea for how this could be turned into a game mechanic, but blackout poetry is very interesting to me because I remember when I was little, the kind of thing it reminded me of was like spy, like redacting things.
Oh, sure.
And actually, in my attic right now, I have papers from World War II from when my great-grandpa was a Navy lawyer that have the actual like red top secret like stamp on it. It's redacted as the first time I found it. I like opened up, like I found this unmarked briefcase. I opened it up. I saw the redactions. I closed it and I went, Mom, are we going to be raided by the FBI? But things like that and blackout poetry, like redaction, it's all about destruction of information in order to change the story. And I think that there is something fascinating there with either the transmission of stories, the historic... I had an idea one time that I feel like is pertinent to this of I believe the note in my computer is called telephone, but sad, where you play an ancient civilization and making your documents, and then you chew them up, you rip them up and stuff, and then another player has to be an archaeologist and give their best retelling of this civilization's culture through the fragments that survive.
That has such similar vibes to the Telling Tales. Some of the ideas in Telling Tales, that game that we did in our first episode, where you have that physical media stack of history that you like get to choose to pass on.
Yes,
like if you were a player coming in on the fourth game of that. But I one of the things that I think my brain has been really stuck on over the last, I don't know how long, is the idea of like having artifacts of play. And I love
I love artifacts of play.
It's so good. And like Dice Exploder had a really good episode recently where they were talking about the game, and I'm going to forget the name of the game again, even though I was just talking about this the other day. But the solo play RPG where you take a deck of cards and you're trying to like capture demons with it, and you like cut up and draw on the cards and stuff. And then as you play, your deck of cards gets destroyed and damaged, and they like shuffle differently and weird because they're all like cut up and stuff. And you have to do these different things. It's very cool sounding. I have not played it, but the idea, and we can try to figure out what the name is real quick as well. But that game has kind of stuck in my brain, and like the idea of the core element of play being about like making something, well, destroying something really.
Yeah, destroying and making something.
And I think that's super cool.
Yeah. Let's see, what happens when you destroy a deck of cards? Like you said, it changes how they shuffle. I love doing things with cards in story games and tabletop games in general. I think they are an untapped vein of design goodies.
I will say one of the downsides of this prompt being so generic is there's so many different ways it can go. I wonder, are there any specific mechanics that come to your brain that you've been really excited by recently that you think would fit this?
I mean, going back to kind of the original direction that we were kind of going down of using physical things, there is something very attractive to me about the idea of taking magazines and cutting out sentences and using those to construct people.
Oh, yeah.
So like you have like an article about like let's say you have three magazines. You've got Nat Geo, you've got Time. I don't read a lot of magazines. What's a good third one?
Sports Illustrated? I don't know.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated. Oh, that'll get you.
People related stuff.
Yeah, and you like to create your character, you do some sort of randomization. Dice is probably the easiest, a D100 maybe, and you like roll for what page you're on. If there's any words on there, like cut a bunch of them out. Like I don't know whether it would be better to do full sentences, because that could get clunky, but like some way to narrow down your pool of possible things so that you're not just like, because I know myself, I like to design assuming that all of my audience has ADHD as bad as I do.
Sure, yeah.
And so I'm like, it would be overwhelming to me. I would spend hours flipping through each magazine. So that's kind of my justification for making it an event rather than a game act, or a event rather than a player action to which page you're on. But once you're on that page, your options are significantly narrowed. And then taking like one or two sentences from a page in the Nat Geo, the Time, and the Sports Illustrated for our example. Yeah, like constructing a character or a place out of that.
The other thing that I think is super interesting is if you have a sort of variety of media that you're pulling from, even if it includes like old books or something.
Yeah.
You could pull like images too, and you could kind of construct setting and character from the context of like a couple of random books. And have that pull stuff together. The problem with that is it makes it really hard to like structure other stuff around because it's like so open-ended.
Yeah, it's so open-ended, and then it's one of those mechanics that I feel like you're started out with a bang. It's so interesting to tear your to excise your character out of the remnants, like constructing it out of the bones extracted from these other pieces of media. Where do you go from there? Also, like by the end of this, that's a lot of wasted material too.
Yeah, and you could always do the thing where, like, if you were gonna play something like this, you could take like 3 magazines, grab 3 magazines that were gonna go into the trash and have those be like
Yeah.
three magazines that you use for multiple sessions. Because pulling 10 sentences from 3 pages isn't exactly using the whole magazine, right?
Yeah.
Something else I wonder is, I only caught the back half of a playtest with Anna Anthropy, a game that they were working on. We did a little like group playtest at one of the libraries here in Chicago, and I didn't make it there for the whole thing, but they were working on like a Scrabble game, and there was a core thing where you like built your words, and then your words like determined your travel through the world, and I have the full context for the mechanics, so I might be like bungling it a little bit. But
hey, that's how ideas happen. You bungle the things that you remember. You go find out it's a different thing, and you go, "Oh, this is mine now."
Yeah. Well, and that's where I was thinking, like, it just jumping off of the idea of building words with like Scrabble tiles or whatever. It might be fascinating to have it be, rather than pulling sentences out and that becomes your character, you just use the words from a piece of media that you're pulling from. So whether that's cut out or whatever, those become your like creation or whatever for how you make your character. Or you get a pile of adjectives and a pile of nouns, and then your whole game revolves around those in some way. They become like currency almost.
Yeah. Oh, currency is fascinating. I have thoughts about that, but first, for some reason, my brain is going towards. We've been talking about it as if we're making characters.
Yeah, I guess that's not a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I always love messing with what you actually play. Ever since, again, Wander Home is a big influence on me, because when someone quote plays the setting, I had never considered that before, and it led me down a rabbit hole of design ideas of like, well, what else is taken for granted that you can flip on its head and see how it dances. But one thing I was thinking is taking from these books, as you had brought up and stuff, the books, the magazines, etc., and you can do it with images too. I think God, I guess I'm stuck on archaeology. Like you're trying to reconstruct, rather than you building a character or a setting. It's which you are objectively doing that from a outside the game perspective, but in the game framing it as, I don't know, investigating like a case. You're trying to find descriptions of a person who is missing or something, or you're in this dig site for like let's use Bronze Age, and you're trying to figure out what it looked like. Does that make any sense? Like more of discovering?
Discovering a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
That is a very fascinating way to take it as well, because there's you can go the literal route of like, oh, here's a magazine, and now let's build rules around the idea of like, this is our artifact. We need to discover things about it. Like, what do we infer about the world that this magazine came from? Or you can go the other route and like use the words in the magazine as a mechanic for a game that's like discovering an arbitrary existence, whether that's like what you were saying, where you're investigating like a mystery, or you're discovering like a tomb or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fascinating framing. I think there's also a potential here that you could use a couple of different things that we're talking about here together. Discover like the media as discovery. I think would also potentially work well with like nouns and adjectives as currency type thing. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I love just the verbiage of nouns and verbs as currency.
Yeah.
I love linguistics, and so I've been trying. I've had this game idea for helping explain how how languages develop from common ancestors. I won't go into it because it's not exactly germane, but the idea of words as currency, the kind of world that implies too, if you take it
Yeah.
literal as some sort of currency, or like if you can also take it in a very Earthsea or what's the other one that does this? Stormfront, Dresden Files, True Names, like
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, like spell construction, magic construction.
The other thing that this like sort of space of like using words and sentences in like a very fascinating way makes me think of is Realis. I'm not sure if you've read anything about that
I've
game.
not.
It's a game where like your resolution mechanic is sentences, and so you like come
Oh,
up with sentences, and the sentences are either like a +1 or a +2 or a +3, depending on how like real they are. It's a fascinating game.
huh?
It's so interesting. It's on my list of like need to play soon.
Yeah.
So that kind of pops to my brain as well of something that like plays with sentences in that way. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I don't have like a way that you could tie those things together while not being able to craft the sentences at will, because it's
Yeah.
tough. Like, right, because you, although actually that's not how it's done in Realis all the time either, I guess, because you have sentences that are part of classes, I think, as well. I haven't
Oh,
fully
okay.
read the whole book actually, so I think that I kind of taking a step back here. I think maybe it would be good, since we're at the 20-minute mark, to think about the mechanics that we have here,
Okay.
that we have written down, the ones we've talked about so far, and think if
Mm-hmm.
there's any that jump out to us. It seems like we're both kind of leaning towards the words as currency.
Yes, I'm trying to think of how I want to do that in a way that is practical as a tabletop game. Because one of the first things that comes to mind is this really strange book that I cannot for the life of me remember the name of, but it's named for the guy who discovered, I don't know how you describe it, the phrase, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy brown dog.
Oh, okay.
It's about an island where, like, they have a statue of the sky and the entire Roman alphabet, English alphabet. And then one day a letter falls off and they stop using that letter. And the book is written this way until it becomes absolute nonsense as each letter drops off of the statue.
Wow.
It's fascinating. It's unreadable towards the end, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
the
for
point.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, like something like that almost, where the spending quote unquote a word
Has
has
like
some
real
sort of
world consequences.
yeah has a tangible lingering effect.
That's interesting.
I don't know how actionable that is though, is the
Yeah,
thing.
I guess two questions. One,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is first sort of a mechanical thing. Do you think words should come from the media that you're repurposing, right?
That's
Like
right, because that's
is that a you take the magazine and you chop out like you get 100 words to cut out and then you go from there?
100 words feels like a lot, but I see your vision.
I mean, I'm not saying it has to be
Yeah,
100, right? But like that's,
yeah.
as a sort of throwing a shot in the dark, and then we can
Mm-hmm.
throwing a shot, but a shot in the dark, and then we
Shot
can
putting in
kind
the
of
dark.
yeah, we can kind of see how that plays out as we scaffold mechanics around it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it might be useful to say like, okay, you get 20 nouns, 20 adjectives, and 20 verbs.
Mm-hmm.
Go have fun, whatever, so that
Yeah,
we just like keep it simple. And then
yeah.
the gameplay somehow hinges around like those. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
scene setting is based on like a noun, an adjective, and a verb. That's kind of interesting. But the problem with that is then like, oh, you could build everything off of the nouns, adjectives, and verbs. You could be like, oh, someone enters the scene. Who are they? Find a noun, adjective, and verb. That'd
Yeah,
be really weird.
it would be really weird, and it would definitely create a sort of resource pool of like sort of the Cards Against Humanity effect of
I was
like you
thinking of
have that
that
one
too.
card where you're like, if I get this prompt, I'm taking the game. I'm
Yeah.
taking the game, baby.
Oh. You could do it kind of like that, where like individual people have their own pools, and it's like GM-less, but you like individual. I don't know. That's my brain. Just when you mentioned the Cards Against Humanity thing, my brain was like, oh, what if this is like cooperative story building game, but
Hmm.
everyone has their own pools. Because I was initially
Yeah.
thinking the pool is in the middle and everyone just builds
I
from
I
it.
was thinking that. I was thinking that
I think that
too.
makes more sense, but you saying the Cards Against
Yeah.
Humanity thing just broke my brain.
Yeah. Cards Against Humanity has that effect. There's a reason why we have so many games like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
seriously.
Not to throw shade
Hey,
in the
it was
game
definitely
space.
successful. I'll give it
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh. But no, there's definitely something there with words as currency of like using them as a limited. I like the idea of using the words as some means of resolution of the solution to a conflict, to a scene, to a prompt must come from these words that you have limited amounts of.
So, something that I have been doing for most of these that's seemed to work pretty well is shifting into like a so how does starting the game look? So,
Okay.
if we're starting the game, if we sit down and we're like
Mm-hmm.
let's play, what does that look like? And I think it sounds like the first thing you need to do is find a piece of media.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe more. It sounds like maybe 1 to 3 pieces of media.
Yeah. Depends on how on what you got lying around. Um,
So
oh,
go for it.
okay. There's something. I don't know if this is a universal behavior though. So I still have boxes. I'm talking boxes of like. I mean, I guess they're not that big, shoe boxes, but multiple of them, full to the brim of like old school assignments that I doodled on or things that I wrote in like middle school and elementary school.
Interesting.
I really like the idea of using those.
I think that
Um,
is a really cool idea. I don't know if that will be a universal thing.
exactly.
Some of those probably exist at my parents' house, but I don't know
uh-huh.
where. So
Yeah.
that I agree that would be really fascinating for any game.
Uh-huh.
It might just be best to say like written media or
Yeah,
something
written
like
media
that.
just in general, because like everything that I'm thinking of, media, magazines, books, I don't know, receipts. Those aren't very archival,
No, but if you
because it's
had
thermal
like an old journal from a really long
Yeah,
time ago, that could be really interesting if you were doing it with
that would
friends.
be very interesting.
Each of your friends brings their childhood journal and you like go, that'd be funny if you were all really close.
I there you learned some things real
Yeah,
quick about
for
your friend's
sure.
past.
And it sounds
I
like core we need words, but we just need to figure out what how many and what
Yeah,
kind.
words, how many and what kind. Also, I actually was thinking of it from the opposite direction of like what the artifact at the end of play looks
Oh,
like.
okay. Yeah.
Um,
We can talk about that too.
because that seemed to be the thing that we both fixated on at the very beginning
Yeah, I'm a
was the
huge
idea of
fan of that.
exactly. It's always cool. Like I mean I again going back to Wanderhome, I still have all the little character cards that we made
Hmm.
because we put a lot of love into those. But I'm almost thinking like most accessible thing in my mind is sheet of printer paper or notebook paper, some sort of paper, taping, gluing, or stapling things to it.
I do like the classic like glue stick. You have like
Yeah.
cut out words. I It's kind of fascinating the idea of having like index cards or something like
Uh-huh.
that, and having like if you did something like the thing I had mentioned earlier, where you take like a noun, an adjective, and maybe a verb, and those become
Mhm.
like your scene concept or like your
Yeah.
scaffold or whatever. Then you could also use a similar structure for coming up with like problems that arise within the scene.
Uh-huh.
And then you could create like these little cards that end up having like okay, so we have, this is what the scene is about, and this is the person who like pops up who's trying to like, who's the problem, or like the thing that is in our way or whatever. Noun is a little bit restrictive in some ways, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe we'd have to consider that in our writing, but
yeah. Noun is really restrictive if you're going strictly based off of written media that you find. So I wonder, but how many adjectives are you going to find? Again, I don't read many magazines.
Well, if you're reading like National Geographic, you're gonna find a lot of adjectives.
That's true, because it's going to be like a beautiful vista of orange rock or whatever.
Or using our examples, Time and Sports Illustrated are also going to have lots of adjectives.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I guess that's, for some reason in my brain for like the past like 20 minutes, magazines just occupied a fully different space from books. They're really not that different. I don't know why I was
very different in tone and
yes,
style, but not that different in terms of
the actual. You're still using words, you're still describing things, you're still telling stories. The core things in my mind are the artifact at the very end of play, the concept of a limited pool of words that you can pull from, and the concept of discovering something. Like, again, I'm me, so I gravitate towards wizards and wizard imagery, but almost like a wizard college thing. There, you're trying to investigate something through these words, trying to capture a stream of magic, sort of spell-like, but using these limited words. I don't know if that's anything.
I mean, well, the limited pool of words plus wizard, my brain immediately goes to like spell casting.
Yeah.
My only holdup there is I have recently finished a game, all but art, that is very similar to that, with words and spell casting and an artifact of play being a core theme to it. So I could do my best, but I might be a little bit poisoned on that topic.
Yeah. All right, then we could try to steer a little further afield from that.
I wonder if it might be good to shift into what you were talking about, like the archaeology idea. Because the structure of like starting and like having this thing where you're like finding what even is the thing you're like looking at, like the discovery of the words, sort of.
Yeah.
Then having the like searching phase or whatever that is, then the discovery, and then whatever a resolution is, and the artifact of play. That's like a pretty coherent structure to like a sort of one pager.
Yeah.
And that fits all of our core elements.
Yeah, like one thing we could do is like sort of a Bayou Tapestry thing where you're discovering a relief, because I like here when you were doing the hand gesture of like the structure and stuff. For some reason my brain just went, it's like you're holding a tablet.
Sure, yeah.
Called a tablet with hieroglyphics.
You're trying to like decipher the words or whatever.
Yeah. And the thing you're left with could be, because that could also bring in, if you glue the words down, you can like draw. Because I can really see this being frustrating if you there's a fine line between having to work with what you're given and being frustrated at not having the one thing that you really want to do with it. So I wonder if adding an element of like you have words, then you have like you can draw something. You can draw people interacting. You can draw. So like the words are you said sometime earlier of like setting up a scene. Like it could be a literal scene in this tablet or tapestry or whatever sort of thing that you're creating in this real world in-game discovering.
Yeah, it's less of setting up a scene in that context and more of uncovering what the scene that this thing is written about is, right? Which is fascinating. But then the question becomes to me is like, words as currency makes sense in that context, I think, because then it's also really fascinating. I really like the idea of like, you have a sheet of paper and you kind of backwards Mad Lib this. Because I don't think it's really possible to do it without that. Otherwise, you'd have to, because you could collage every single word, but it would take forever, and that's kind of like a different game.
Yeah, it would take forever. It would get really frustrating really quick. I feel like it would be really cool, but it would be.
I wonder though, like, so you collage you cut out a bunch of words that becomes your like sort of currency of, like, and it maybe this is a solo game.
Yeah,
kind of, or even like a 1 to 2 person game where maybe you like do it with a friend or whatever, and it becomes almost like sort of a journaling game. But then the idea is like, and we just have to figure out what the structure is for that, because that kind of vibes more with the structure that we have here, in the sense that if you did it sort of like reverse Mad Lib, it could be about like figuring out where words go on the page and then building a story around them, like with other words. But that feels more like a solo game, or definitely GM-less, but like a solo game. And it's unfortunate that I don't have more experience with solo RPGs, because I feel like I wish in this moment that I had played more. Gotta go play Tim's 1000-Year.
Hold on, I got it.
It's also on my list.
1000-Year-Old Vampire.
Yeah.
Available wherever books are sold.
So, but that is where my brain goes, is like the what I do know about like 1000-Year-Old Vampire and some similar solo RPGs, like the story that they build through the prompts and the journaling and stuff like that is similar in my brain to where I would want something like the reverse Mad Lib to go.
Yeah.
So it would mostly be about like, how do you build those really good prompts, which I'm sure Tim Hutchings spent years doing, right? But, or at least a year, right? But yeah,
that's a good question to ask him sometime. I'll have to email him and be like, hey, I want to talk to you. Maybe I can get him in Story Game Chicago to talk about it too. Like,
he's in there. He's just not very active.
Yeah, he just doesn't use. He legally doesn't. He legally has Discord.
Yeah.
But I think it's a valuable question to ask of what in his mind makes a good prompt. Because I don't think that what we're making here necessarily is prompt development.
No.
Unless, yeah. But I think a similar mindset, like, prompts are meant to get interesting like conversation and interesting ideas out. So
it's the sort of thing where like in the scaffolding that I was kind of writing out while we were talking, phase 2 of like whatever searching is probably where I would say like, okay, if we're doing a 1-page like solo RPG, this would probably be where I would want like a bunch of prompts that are going to guide that like reverse Mad Lib thing.
Yeah.
Because in my mind then the game becomes, okay, I sit down either solo or maybe it's a 2-person thing at most or whatever. That might be kind of fascinating, passing it back and forth and having the story adjust.
Yeah, because I do think that having a second person there, at least, I think a solo style RPG, but with 2 people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if we're going still on the theme of like archaeology and discovering a story, like we're finding, almost like we're finding / creating the Epic of Gilgamesh almost type deal, and having a second person there to throw that bit of, not mistranslation, but like that little bit of chaos into it, where I feel like with solo RPGs, you can kind of have a thought of where you want things to go, and it's fun to make it go there. But once you add a second person to any sort of story game, it becomes significantly more unpredictable. And at least to me, that's where a lot of the fun of story games comes from, is the collaboration.
Yeah.
So 2 people working on the same Oh, so there's a thought. This wouldn't be using the physical media that we have necessarily, unless we wanted to do that. But like, if in the framing of we are archaeologists finding uncovering this story from our ancestors or what have you, what kind of like archaeologist are you? Are you
That's a good
are you
question.
a sociologist? Are you an anthropologist? Are you a
So really, it's like
geologist?
decide what kind of historian you are.
What kind of historian, or even more? Yeah, I guess historian is really where we want to go. I was going to say like geologist or something, but that's not really going to get the human side of that aspect.
No, I
It's
think that
more
might be too broad.
too broad. Yeah, that gets too broad. Yeah, what kind of historian are you? And then that, whether mechanically or just mindset wise, that can help drive the sorts of things you focus on as your scientist. Like if somebody is a material culture scientist, a material culture anthropologist, they're going to focus on the tools and the clothing that these people are wearing, the physical description of them. Whereas if you are a narratologist or a mythologist, you're focusing on how this myth that you're digging up links with other with the larger family tree of mythology.
As you were talking, I was like, oh, this really needs like a couple of character prompts. Like you
Yeah,
as a
for
character,
sure.
who are you? And like, why are you with this partner who might fuck up your tablet decisions or
Uh-huh.
whatever? So I wrote, what do you study and why did you fall in love with it? And then why are you working with your partner now and what tension does your partnership suffer through?
Yeah, I
as
like that
as
a
just like
lot.
a sort of structure for like who are you and why are you here
Hmm.
and why are you here together, and that way you guys can both answer the what tensions does your partnership suffer through, and you might be like, well, they're kind of annoying, and the other person might be like, I hate them with my entire soul or whatever, and that could be like a really funny little thing to
I
have.
hate them, but they're a damn good metallurgist.
Yeah. So and I don't think you need too much more for like character
No.
in a game like this. It's really
Yeah.
just pick your written media. What are you guys doing, and why are you
Hmm.
together? And then like now go cut out some words.
Yeah. Go cut out some words, and that can also maybe as part of what do you study, we could have, because I like the idea of that. I really words, because I really like the way these two sort of meta characters almost
Mhm.
interact with each other, and I think that inherently lends itself really well to distribution of authority.
Oh yeah.
So like you can have your collection of words, but maybe one person is the final authority on. Well, let's see. You've got, let's use a hero myth as an example, because there's like hero myths, there's creation myths, there's hero myths, creation myths. Let's just stick with that. That's good for right now. Hero myth. We love stories about people. So you've got a hero, you've got an antagonist, you've got trials, you've got tools, you've got the landscape, creatures. That's kind of in trials, but we'll write it down anyways. And so, as picking what kind of historian you are, you can pick certain aspects of the myth that you're going through
Hmm.
and decide I'm the authority on these things. And we can package those up too if we want to, into like,
I have an interesting question with that.
yes.
So do you think it's more interesting to pick the things that you're an authority on, or to have that sort of tension between these two people where like you're like you take the scroll and write the next sentence and you pick the like two words that the other person like really wanted to use for their next sentence? Because there's an interesting tension that could exist there, which kind of plays off of that question of what tensions does your partnership suffer through,
Yeah.
where like I write a sentence that's like, this is a tablet of like the great Pharaoh or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I use like 2 words that fit really well with it. And the other guy's like, damn it, like I really wanted to use those 2 words for how I was going to extend the story.
Okay, so you're still thinking from like the pool.
That's kind of what I'm
shared
thinking.
pool of words. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe that's not the direction we go, but I'm just thinking in the context of like, if each person has authority when they are going over everything that they're writing, and there's no like no and or like wait, hold on. Obviously not including like safety tool stuff, but just in the context of like the narrative freedom to be like, and this is what the next line of the tablet says, and the other person is like, how dare you? That's like kind of fun, even though I don't imagine this is a competitive game, right?
No, for sure. I do think that'll lead to very interesting things. I'm trying to figure out in my head, like I'm playing through it in my head of like, I've got the tablet, I write the sentence, I reverse Mad Libs as we described it. I don't know, I take the words like mighty and fire.
Oh, those are good. Like,
yeah. This is the story of the mighty god of fire, Hilgathar.
Sure, yeah.
And someone's like, dang it, I was going to use mighty to describe the city, because.
And I don't even think that creates like an antagonistic thing. I think that just creates a moment where you're like, oh, that was my word, and now you have to start thinking on your feet.
That's mostly what I was trying to think through is because I don't want to make, because I've accidentally done this in games before, is in an attempt to induce like you said, like a thinking on your feet mentality. I've accidentally made a competitive game, and it was deeply unfun. None of my players wanted to communicate with each other.
Although I will say, there is, in a game that is like not fast paced, because obviously this is not fast paced, maybe the idea of having something that is like a think on your feet moment just doesn't really fit, because that does feel kind of antithetical. So maybe that doesn't really make sense. Although,
well, I think it's less think on your feet and more make do with what you have, I guess. Just a much,
because there's no time limit.
Yeah, there's no time limit. I think a time limit would make this game more stressful than anything. Like a school assignment.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a thought though, because I like the idea of splitting authority, but I don't like the idea of the person with the tablet has complete control over the narrative. That
so you want like a little bit of like
yes. Yeah, so I'm wondering if either one person at any given time has control of the verbiage, and the other person has control of the illustration. So it could be you could reverse. Oh no, that would be really fun to reverse Mad Lib, kind of, where you cut out pictures of.
Well, you could also just extend that further and say that one person has total control of the pasting of words and everything, and the other person has to fill in the blanks. So, like, including illustrations and everything if you want.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, I put down words on the page, and you have to use the space in between to figure out what the or maybe I hand you the words, maybe you don't paste them. That's potentially very fascinating.
I like that. I think the way that I would want to go with that is to kind of merge that with the last thing is I like that a lot. I like somebody having full control over. Okay. How about this? So let's you in phase 1, you get your media and stuff, and in addition to words, you get pictures. You cut out pieces of pictures. One person has complete control over pasting the words but drawing the picture. So I really enjoy the reverse Mad Libs.
Yeah.
Let's say I start with words. I paste down my words. I pass it to you. You fill in the sentences between those words, right?
Yeah.
Then
I love the idea of me pasting two words really close to each other that don't really go together, and the other person being like, "What do I do?"
exactly.
Yeah, that's really
Well, because
funny.
then you might end up with stuff where suddenly you're writing vertically now. Is kind of how I would solve that.
Yeah.
If my friends tried to pull that on me, I'd go, "Nuh-uh,
Yeah.
nuh-uh, we're a vertical. We're a vertical script now.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Screw you."
fascinating.
But then you can paste the pictures that you have, and then I have to draw the extrapolation of them. So kind of a. Did you ever have those sticker books? Those coloring books where like sections had stickers that like. I don't know how to describe this, and there's only one sticker book that I know that did this. I had a Transformers sticker book where, like, say you had like Transformers was going to come up eventually. Like,
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask more follow-up questions because I wasn't quite sure what you meant when you mentioned extrapolating the image. So I'm glad you're explaining it.
yes, yeah, because I realized as I was describing it, I'm like, I don't think this is a phenomenon that again is universal. But I had this Transformers coloring book. And in the back was a set of stickers. And so let's say a page was Optimus Prime. In the back, there would be a sticker of like one of his arms or his chest or like his sword or something. And you would take it out of the back and put it over there. And it drove me insane because I didn't have the coloring skills at that time.
But like I'm just thinking about the sticker book in Yazuba's where you use it for like unlocks. But instead you're using it to put on the drawn stuff.
Is that how that's pronounced?
That's how I've always heard it pronounced.
I was thinking of it as, assuming we're talking about
J Dragon's game.
Yeah, I thought it was Yaziba, like gazebo.
All of the people that
Yazubas.
the people I played it with pronounced it Yazubas, so that's
Yazuba sounds right.
I always got
right,
it like
but
brainwormed into my head, so
yeah.
that could be wrong. But yeah, the big sticker book in the back is where my brain immediately went when you said that, but a little bit different.
Yeah, but yeah, so like
so you would draw the character and then put the sticker like into their hand or whatever, or however you wanted.
That's how it was in that book, but I was thinking more like, let's say I cut out a picture of. Well, we'll just use the sword example. I cut out a picture of a sword. For continuity sake, I glued the words down. You filled them in. Then you cut out a picture of a sword. You glue it underneath, and now I have to draw what is outside of that sword. Yeah. Is it a sword in a armor stand? Is it a sword in a character's hand? What is the context of that sword?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. In your mind, is that always going to be a drawing, or is it sometimes going to be notes?
No.
And I guess my other thought with that is the one thing that I don't necessarily love about the images is how they might break up the flow of the page, but that's kind of a good thing, actually. So there's pros and cons to that.
I really like the idea of it fully breaking up the flow of the page. I like the almost illuminated manuscript nature of it. Or again, Bayou Tapestry. I have a poster of a section of the Bayou Tapestry. It's not really what I'm thinking now that I'm looking at it, because all the words are at the
sure.
top. But,
the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, okay, never mind. The way that text gets broken up by images in something that is so like natural like that, where you're not the one who's doing all of it and someone else is just sticking shit wherever, and then you have to like accommodate that. I think that could end up being really cool. That would be the kind of thing that would have to be play tested and potentially adjusted.
Absolutely. Because I can definitely see people. Because to me, I love that. I think that's rad. I think it's perfect. Slap a label on it, ship it, we're good. Yeah. I could see some of my friends being driven absolutely insane by not having any sort of control over that flow. But I'm a very visual person, so the thing that I want is a interesting thing to look at. But I recognize that is not universal, as neither is the sticker book or the homework bins.
So I I
um,
I've been writing up some scaffolding around what we've been talking about. So
mhm,
um phase one is our media pickup and character creation with
mhm,
1 to 3 written media, so magazines, books, old papers. Decide what kind of historian you are. What do you study? All those prompts that we went over. And
mhm,
then phase two, I called the searching phase, kind of like what we talked earlier. Uh, Cut out
mhm.
some words. I just wrote random numbers here. We can talk about whether or not they
Yeah.
make sense later. And then cut out some images. And that might
Mhm.
need more prompting as well. But I
Yeah.
don't know what that is
Like
yet.
a person, object, and landscape
Yeah,
is
yeah.
kind of.
And like so maybe it's just good to put guidelines around like cut out some images, focus on like people, landscapes,
Yeah.
objects, things like that. But the discovery section is the main thing that you were just talking about. So one person pastes 2 words onto the page, they pass it to the next
Mhm,
person who writes a sentence using the 2 words as scaffolding, sort of like a reverse Mad Lib, and then they paste an
mhm.
image near the sentence and then pass it back to the first person who takes the page back and draws context for the image. Play goes until there are no more words left. I just said 2 words because it splits it into a pretty even like 5 rounds back and forth. Or sorry,
Yeah.
15 rounds back and forth, which is probably too many.
That's a bit much, but I like where your head is at.
And that's the sort of thing where we could just like cut it down in half and or
Mhm.
something like that, and it would probably be fine. So, um, but this is very much the type of game that needs playtesting. So,
Oh yeah.
but but
Oh
that's the
yeah.
whole point of this is like every game we've
Uh-huh.
made is gonna be a bit half baked when it comes out, and that's kind of the joy
Yeah.
of this.
The unfortunate thing about this one is it requires physical components, which is difficult to do online playtesting
Oh,
for.
sure, yeah. Well,
But I could definitely try to do this with some of my friends.
and I was going to say, like, this is something that I could definitely wrangle up some people who would be fascinated by this concept.
Yeah.
And, like, you could probably go to, like, a local used bookstore and find some magazines, and if you don't
Hmm.
have some at home,
Oh God, going to the fantasy section of a used bookstore would get you some rad covers
it would.
and words for
And
this.
there's a lot of really old books at used bookstores that oftentimes
Hmm.
just kind of go sitting in the used bookstore forever that are super
Hmm.
cheap. So there's some
Yeah.
good repurposing of stuff here.
Yeah.
And then you just use that book for like years as you play this game again and again and again because you're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it, and you're gonna make an entire mythological pantheon and set of sagas. You're gonna make an Edda out of this. Turn that shit into an Edda. Hell yeah.
So other than having the artifact of play at the end, what do we think is the resolution here? Is the resolution just having this sort of story, or is there more than that?
I feel like because we came up with these meta characters, we have to somehow close
Yeah, a bit of a
their
story.
arc. Yeah.
Is that maybe just a couple of prompts in, I guess, 2 questions actually, because there might need to be a couple of prompt bits in the discovery phase as well.
I think having a set of like not proper prompts necessarily, but a like not hints, but a means of doing the thing that prompts are supposed to do, but not necessarily prompts in a proper sense, where it's like think about what kind of story you're making, what kinds of character, I guess they are just going to become prompts, but like what kinds of characters are involved in it, the kind of people, what do they want, where are they going, what are they doing, what do they encounter, what keeps them from achieving what they want, what, and I think emphasizing too that not everything might make logical sense. You're a historian discovering a fragmented piece. There are going, even though you are filling in the blanks quite literally, there are going to be blanks.
That's a really good bit because the like I mean we as people in the real world we decipher stuff from old cultures all the time that we
Hmm.
like don't fully understand or can't fully
Yeah, like fully half of like the Egyptian the old Egyptian language, we don't know necessarily how it's pronounced,
Yeah.
because it uses a what's called an abjad, which is a kind of letter system where you don't write the vowels. A lot of Semitic languages use it, so like Hebrew, Aramaic,
Hmm.
and Arabic are the most famous ones. And they took that to such an extent that we don't we assume E, generally speaking, but there are many cases where we have no idea what could it actually was, how it actually was pronounced. And that goes for like stories too, where there's entire sections. I have a translation of like the Poetic Edda, so completely different culture, but there are stanzas in it that are just blank lines where the note is, we don't know what went
Yeah.
here. We have ideas. There's like 6 or 7 different ideas of what went here, and they all change the story dramatically.
Yeah. And like there's so many reasons too that it could be. So like it's not something to be super worried about. But I like the note about like start by thinking about the characters involved in your tale, and like it might not make logical sense. Remember that this is a tale of discovering old history. Consider what type of tale this is. Like, is it an epic,
Yeah.
or is it just the notes of some farmer on their like? Uh, I actually really like that. Consider what type of tale this is.
Yeah.
Is this an epic, or like the idea of two people passing back a note and just writing out the like details of a farmer's harvest is really funny to me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like a sort of like how the oldest written record we have is somebody complaining about the copper merchant Ayanashir,
Yeah,
and his terrible shitty copper.
yeah. I think those are a good little set. If in like a full final version of this, I would probably want more scaffolding on like what this should
Yeah.
be. But I think that's a good like
Yeah.
that's a good quick hour-ish one pager set of prompts. I think that fits
Uh-huh.
well.
Yeah. No, yeah, because I think having a scaffolding, because I think the big thing about this game is it is very easy. It would be very easy to get overwhelmed by the possibility, even if you have these pieces that you can throw on. Um, and so I think having something. Oh, I don't remember who in the server it was, and I don't know where I wrote it down, but someone had a really good way of looking at story games as like essentially giving permission to play around with it. It's a game, you're playing around with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing that people, especially people who come from more rules heavy games, sometimes are not
Mm-hmm.
as open to. Like I ran a D&D
Yeah.
campaign for like 2 years for coworkers, and I had some people in that
Mm-hmm.
game who were just fully opposed to the idea of ever doing anything that was like homebrew or like by the table, just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be done by the way the book says it has to be done.
Could not imagine. Could not
And like
imagine.
that it just comes down to like play philosophy and like what the type of
Uh-huh.
player you are. But I think in generally more narrative spaces people are much more open to the like, well, I don't that's not my type of mechanic, so I'm just gonna rip it out and
Yeah.
play it the way I want to play it.
That is exactly how I play D&D. The version of D&D I play is unrecognizable.
Yes. Okay, so we have sort of a rough structure here. I think you could take this and play what we have,
Mhm.
but I do think what you were saying is sort of
The
missing the
resolution.
resolution. Because I agree with you. I think because we've built these sort of like meta characters who are almost
Mhm.
playing where the players are, I think
Yeah.
that there needs to be something with them. Um, and
Yeah.
I have no clue what that is.
I like to start in games and stories in general with what I am trying to emulate or simulate, depending on the thing, usually emulate. The difference in my mind being if it's a simulation, you're trying to get the mathematics of the thing done. So like video games tend to simulate,
Yeah.
in my mind, whereas emulation is the feeling of a thing. Technically, not the exact meaning of those words, but emulation is what I tend to go for. But what I mean by that is in this case, what we are emulating is the experience of being an archaeologist with a research partner working on a project. And so how those end in the real world is usually something's published, the findings are published, something is put in a museum, something is categorized.
That this just makes me want to be like, and the resolution is you take a picture of it and then you publish it to a website that we put up, because that would be
That would
really
be pretty
cool. But
rad.
I don't have a
I don't know web
well
development.
I mean, I don't think it would be that hard. It's more about maintaining it over the long term.
Uh-huh.
But you could like run it for a year. It wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But
Just gotta constantly monitor and make sure no one's drawing huge dicks on their paper and posting that.
well, and it could always be like a thing where you just have a Discord channel or whatever, where it's like your resolution is like you publish your work, and to do that, you take a picture of it and go put the image on this Discord. Although that feels a little bit like in bad faith, because then you're like, please join our Discord to finish this game we made.
But I do like the idea of at least like pretending to encapsulate it, pretending to publish it in some form. I like that idea.
The idea that lodged itself in my brain of like having a web page where you can just go like upload this photo or whatever. Like that's so interesting to me, of like, because that is sort of a crystallization of the idea of an artifact of play as something that will like, and it'd be so cool if you had like a bunch of people finish this game and upload their photos, and then you just had like this revolving door of you could just show all of these like published, like uncovered
these that would be really cool.
It could also just be like, put it on Blue Sky with the hashtag whatever. That's probably
I mean, I
think
that's reasonable. Or like if there was a Reddit of some kind, because I think it's really funny if you had if you like wrote up like an academic article on your story, like, here's what we interpret about the story and the people and their values and culture.
I wonder if that might be something that most people would not want to do.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. I'm insane for this, and the people that I know that would do it are insane for it.
It's one of those things that I can see a very small portion of people finding really cool, and I can see everyone else being like, "What the fuck?
What are you on?
Well,
this is a fake."
And following along with like the idea of posting it online is like, you could always say like, write a less than 500 character like academic review of your thing or whatever, so that like keeps it very minimal, and then it's more in the like fun role play spirit and less in the give us a 5,000 word essay or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fair.
I do really like the idea of like, take a picture of your artifact of play, of your page, tablet. We haven't really called it something yet. We can figure that out.
We haven't really given it. In my mind, it's been a tablet, but again, I can very easily see somebody seeing this as like a tapestry or a scroll. I saw you.
It might be good to just have mechanically it referred to as like your page, because it's probably going to be a sheet of paper, and then just we can reference it as like, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out when we write this out into more real rules. But like, take a picture of your page and then write a short 50-word max, something like that.
Yeah. A brief summary of the things, of the events depicted
in the framing of an academic, what's the word that I'm looking for? The like intro to an academic journal article.
Abstract.
Thank you.
Abstract.
And then post it with the hashtag whatever the name of this game is.
Yeah. The other thing, though, I just realized that this doesn't actually solve the... Because
there's still the meta character thing. Yeah, this doesn't really resolve anything with that.
Yeah. Because I think that's a good end cap on the actual story, because you have... Because I feel especially... I really like summaries in these sorts of games where you're building a story, because it forces you to kind of tie everything together. But yeah, what do you
It's just
do?
really funny to me to be like, oh, you just did this little game where you essentially made like what would be a research project in your theoretical narrative world. Now
Uh-huh.
write your one level up of like, what's your abstract of you researching the thing, but keep it to 50 words. I think that's really
Keep it
funny.
50
I think that's
words.
really funny. So
It's really funny to me. I could see my friends doing this and having some truly ridiculous things.
yeah. I agree though, there's still like there's the question of like why are these prompts important other than to just like scaffold a little bit of who you think you are during play.
Yeah. Yeah, our options I feel like are either simplify them or give them an end cap, and I think end cap is this the one place where cutting back is not I think the solution. We have these two academic types. One way we could do this is we could serve it as a sort of we could make it serve a sort of purpose of, how do I word this? Because I expect people to really only play this once, maybe twice, particularly with the physical load of having to take paper. But I'm sure we could come up with something for generating those words without the physical part, even though that's not as fun. I think that can be an accessibility feature, but something that focuses on like the character development. What did you learn about your partner's field that made you? This feels a little bit end of an anime episode, like the sun's going down and like or a cartoon, like everyone's like, I have a newfound appreciation for forensic archaeology.
Yeah, I and that's why like it kind of feels like there needs to be something in the discovery phase that like integrates the characters a
Yeah.
bit, or we just cut the question, well, but yeah, like how do you integrate that sort of like play or that sort of like role play side of it? And maybe this is a question we
Mm-hmm.
figure out in making the game a little more finished. That's also possible.
Because I feel like the most useful thing to do here is like the way I would play test this is I would take what we have here without the end cap, and I'd give it to my friends who are all theater
Yep.
kids and see what they do, given that they now have a character, how they interact with each
It would
other.
also be useful to
Um,
hand it to some people who are less roleplay inclined and see what they think as
mhm.
well.
And see if they mess with the characters at
Yeah, if it
all.
like blows up,
Um,
or and like maybe they don't mess with the characters, but they still like that context setting at the beginning,
yeah,
and like they don't feel bad about not having that end cap. Like that's totally possible too. I
yeah,
so I think maybe it's fine to leave it where it is, and this is something we can figure out in like getting it into our little like one page layout. Maybe we adjust a little
uh
bit,
huh,
maybe we don't, and this is just the game for now. And if we decide to work on it more in the future, we could always adjust. I
yeah.
do really like your point about how do you do it without physical media. And something I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking about earlier, like way earlier in this episode, was the concept of like, what if, like you had mentioned your old VHS tape of the one show or whatever.
Yeah.
What if you wanted to like engage with a digital media of some kind? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be something like in the layout version where I think it would be really interesting to have a little aside or a note that's like, here are some ideas on how to like pull words from a digital media. Like go watch an episode of your favorite TV show and pull
Mm-hmm.
this many words from it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think you could do that too. It just
I
shifts stuff a bit.
it shifts stuff a bit. The first thought for me was not actually the audio component, but um, have you ever used like the whiteboard function in like Discord?
No, no, I have not.
So Discord has this thing called whiteboard, where it's essentially a collaborative drawing canvas. Um, I think Google Drawing is like that.
Hmm,
I don't actually
that sounds
know.
about right.
Yeah, but similar to Google Docs here, like you can see other people typing and drawing and things on it. That almost becomes to me like the thing that I think about is like graffiti or wall paintings. So adapting it to, I don't think it would need like full other rule
Yeah.
sets, but like little ways of using the materials that are at your
Hmm.
disposal.
And that's where I think it is almost just in the first phase of like media pickup, and like that section could just have some notes on like what do you do if you're
Yeah.
online, what do you do if you don't want to use physical media, what do you do if you want to use like other interesting weird wacky sources. And I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah.
stuff that we could put there.
There's a lot of stuff. I would be really curious to see how somebody, again, like when you were talking about like taking words from a show or something, I would be really curious to see how somebody would incorporate that into a very physical thing noun.
Sure, yeah. I think it would be really funny to like watch a show and while the show is going on be like, oh, that's a good noun. Like write a note down and then be like, oh wait,
Psychotic
adjective.
way to
Yeah. You're like,
imagine walking in on someone doing that. It would look absolutely bonkers.
well, in their defense, this theoretical hypothetical person, I have, and I know other people who have watched shows and taken notes as reference material for like games that I've been working on, or like played games and taken notes. So maybe they'll just think they're doing that, which
That's
is a little
fair.
less weird than writing down
Yeah.
independent words. Cool. Well, I think this gives us a really good starting place.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you feel like is missing from this? If you were going to go throw this on a table and playtest it tonight, is there anything that you feel like is just not there that you would need that jumps out at you?
That is not there that I would need that jumps out at me.
That was a lot of qualifiers, but yeah,
It is a lot of
I
qualifiers.
apologize.
It is a lot of qualifiers. Nah, it's all good. It's all good. My very first concern continues to be the presence of physical media that I feel okay with just with mangling.
Is that something that you think you need rules for? Is that something that you just is a general issue?
I think I think that's just a general issue. Like people have different boundaries. Like I know some people who would not you could not convince them to cut up a book. Like
Sure.
they're the kind of people who don't like write in books, which I respect. I fully get it. I used to be on that train quite a bit, and then I found out that underlining things is very fun, and I remember things.
Yeah, very helpful too.
Because I feel like it's too much to provide like cards, or not cards, but like have like a corner of the paper dedicated to here's a set of adjectives and stuff and pictures and things that you can use. I feel like that's a bit too much, particularly if it's a one-page RPG. That's a lot of space being dedicated to things that will be cut out. Although having a one-page RPG where you cut out game pieces,
It's kind of interesting.
that sounds kind
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm gonna think about
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's really the only thing. That's really the only thing that jumps out is that initial acquisition of bits to mangle.
I agree with you that that's going to be a thing that like some people just won't do. I think it falls into that same place of like the card based RPG that I was talking about at the beginning, where like I'm sure some people just like wouldn't cut up a deck of cards for a number of reasons. I think it becomes a little harder with like books or magazines or whatever because you can go get like a $1 deck of cards at the store or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas you have to have like a magazine lying around. Honestly, this is the worst time to be making this game because if this was 15 years ago, everyone would have magazines lying around.
If this was 15, 20 years ago, if this was the 80s,
yeah, even better.
We'd be golden.
Yeah, except no one would see this because it would only be D&D.
It would only be D&D.
So
you win some, you lose some.
Exactly. So yeah, I agree that I think that'll probably be a hurdle, but I think that's the big reason to have like guidelines on if you don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that's a fun part of it if people have the media to do. Like I have old character sheets from players from old games that I haven't played in years. Like I have one shots that I've run, just character sheets in a little like filing cabinet. I could just pull a bunch of character sheets out and like cut out fun words. I have printed out like handouts from games that I've run. So I feel like there's a lot of places that you can pull stuff from if you get creative with it.
Junk mail.
Junk mail.
Everyone's got junk mail.
That's also a fun one. It's going to go in the trash
That'd be
anyway.
very fun to turn junk mail into.
I think what this is providing me is like we probably need some bit of like categorization of like things to consider. So like things to consider pulling from: junk mail, old character sheets, and printouts. And those are two really good ones. Old
Those are
notebooks.
two really good ones. Yeah, because I have junk mail on my desk here.
Me too.
I've got sketchbooks and old notebooks behind me.
Oh, this would be a great use for your Harry Potter books if you still have them around and don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
You could take your Harry Potter books that you have sitting on your shelf and you could cut them all up. And then boom.
Cut them all up.
That's... But I just mentioned it as like that might be a good usage for like some old books like that. Old books or magazines. Content from authors you no longer like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of gives the bit of scaffolding around like what media to use.
Yeah. I have a very old copy of Lord of the Rings in my closet that is generously described as a book. It is more a loose collection of pages that I don't want to get rid of because it's a very old copy of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It went to my brother's backpack in middle school, and that was the place books went to die.
Yeah.
The copy of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that I received after loaning it to my brother was unrecognizable except for by dental records.
That is another good dental records. That is another good one. Beat up and damaged books and magazines.
Yeah.
Okay, well that gives a really good scaffold, I think, for pretty much the whole game. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, obviously we can talk about like specific numbers, and I'll spend some time building this out a little bit more, and then we can see if there's any thoughts we have beyond this. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. Well, this looks fantastic. I'm excited to get this built out a little bit more.
I'm very excited. I'm excited for all of these games. I'm excited for all the different designers that are going to be on.
The really cool thing with this is I have never worked on or designed anything that is as close to a solo game as this. And it's a lot more sort of freeform than a lot of the other games that I've worked on.
Solo games give you a lot of leeway.
Yeah, and I think it's just very cool. So I'm excited to see where we end up going with this, from notes to the thing that we publish.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
It's been great chatting with you. So where can where can viewers find you, Adelheid?
Guests can find me right here in this chair in my room. Oh God, they found me already. But other people who are not inclined to stalking and other federal crimes can find me at Clockwork9 on most social media. Right now I've got a Blue Sky. By the time this comes out, I might have a Instagram or other some such social media. That's CLOCKQUARK. Probably going to be Clockwork with a number 9 at the end, just because I like the number 9, and it makes sure that that's not taken, or that I didn't accidentally make an account a long time ago, because that has happened several times. Yeah, I'm bad about that sometimes.
We can also throw that into the show notes, so if people want to click down there and jump over to any of your related social media or links, then we'll have that down there for them as well.
Yep.
This has been another episode of Game Storm with myself, Chase, Adelheid. You can find all of Story Games Chicago's stuff at our website, storygameschicago.com. Make sure you follow our monthly newsletter and tune in for our next episode with Erica Bridges. Thank you.
Very excited.
And I'll see you guys next time.